So Somebody Please went to 49 on the charts, on the Billboard R&B charts in 1969. It was on the chart for 3 weeks. And I know in some of the regional markets, like in Ohio and even as far as Florida, that was a hit record. So even without the national distribution, this song was getting major airplay and on the charts in local markets.
Yes.
Yeah. How did that happen? Just word of mouth, or did you send the record out to stations?
No, I sent the record out to stations, and I don't really remember, James, doing the southern tour down in Georgia and
Right.
and all, but that's how I did it.
Sure. Reverend Davis, what do you remember about that record taking off? I'm sure you started hearing reports that Somebody Please was getting chart action.
I remember that's why we got a short version and a long version. When it went to double shot out in California, they made a short version of it. The long version, which is the best, really. Came out first here locally. Went to number one, stayed number one for almost ever. Then Double Shot picked it up out there, made a short version, and it came right back across the country, back to us again, and hit again in Indianapolis again, a second time. So that's why you see a long version or short version.
Ah, that's interesting. What was your reaction at the time? Like, how were people responding to this song when you would sing it?
Oh, when I would sing it?
Yeah.
Herb, I remember crying to Herb because they were ripping off my ruffles off shirt and stuff. And Herb, I was trying to apologize to Herb. Herb said, "No, let him take it. Let him take it." And Herb said, "I'll get you another shirt." I didn't know that, people would go that nuts, Wow. Herb said, let him take it.
And Reverend Davis, I asked you about this last time. That song really took hold in Southern California.
Yeah.
And people have translated that song into Spanish.
I know.
And perform it in Spanish. How does that make you feel when you see that song? How it's affected this community of people?
The Hispanics really love that song. And it's amazing to me when I look on my computer and see them now. I say, oh my Jesus, they still like that song,
Y ahora estoy aquí, no más pensando en ti. Alguien, por favor, alguien, por favor.
The first time I learned how even to perform it, we was down in Georgia, and I saw a guy we stopped to eat in a little restaurant, little Greasy Spoon, and it had a jukebox in it. I really didn't know how to perform the song other than, and I saw this guy laying up on the jukebox. He wasn't letting nobody play anything on that jukebox but Somebody Please. And they were playing it over and over. And I looked at this guy. I said, that's the way it should be performed. In other words, he was brokenhearted, obviously. Of course, I was brokenhearted when I wrote it. So I took that as a cue to realize that's the way it's got to be said all the time, And so I started to act seriously, as if my heart was always broken. But it was broken at the time I wrote it. Dear John Letter.
So you were in a diner somewhere, and you saw, and some guy was playing your song on the jukebox, and you just observed his mannerisms.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
He didn't know we was the Vanguards. We were just trying to find a place to eat.
And on that song, the co-writer is Paul Irvin.
Cadillac, yeah.
That's Cadillac Paul then.
that's
Okay,
Cadillac
that's who
Paul.
it is. Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't make
we
the
call
connection.
him Cadillac.
Yeah.
He had an old Cadillac that he drove, and it stuck. You
Yeah,
know?
and he co-wrote. I think he co-wrote a couple songs with you, right? Is that correct?
He gets credit for being co-writer with me on Somebody Please.
Just Somebody Please.
Only because he was sitting next to me
Okay.
on the floor in my first little house.
Mm-hmm.
And Cadillac was plucking on the guitar. He couldn't play worth a nickel. But that little plucking is what I leaped up and started singing Somebody Please almost right straight first time I tried. Well, I gave Cadillac credit. You know, I said, well, he wrote it with me. Well, he really didn't, but I didn't care. You know, Cadillac Paul.
So your next hit was
It's
Too
Too
Late
Late.
for Love, which you had the distribution on, and that was able to do even better on the charts,
Oh,
right?
my.
That cracked the top 40. I
Yeah.
think it went to 33,
Yeah.
and it was on the chart for 9 weeks, the National Billboard chart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can you talk about the rise of that record? And it was 1970, right, I think. Is that right?
I remember when Tony Black, and you sent us over to Blue Eagle just to hear this little cute little Anthony. He was a good looking little guy, and I went to high school with him.
Okay, yeah.
But he was always a real quiet little fellow. So when you sent me over there and I sat next to him on the piano, he played this song, "It's Too Late for Love," and so soon as I heard "It's Too Late for Love," how he was doing it, I said, "Oh," I caught on to how he was trying to present it, and I did it all just exactly word for word as he wrote it, and so after that, I brought in Big Von again as usual because by that time we was definitely a powerhouse, and that's how we did it.
Because see, Anthony Black had the last Atlantic release.
Okay, that record with Revolution
Right.
compared to what? Yeah.
Right. That's
Yeah.
when they wanted us to go bigger and better.
Yeah.
But their game plan was different than my game plan. So,
Anthony, I talked to Anthony about auditioning that song for the Vanguards, right? And he told me he went to the Blue Eagle, and he was very nervous to perform in front of you. And he sat down, and the whole group was there.
Yeah,
and
they
he
were
played
there.
the song.
As soon as I tried to sing it, when he played it for me, the group had the background that quick. Bam! Because Elaine was so sharp,
Right.
and she was singing the tenor part in the background
they put it together instantly.
instantaneously.
The funny thing is, he seemed like he had some insecurity about the whole
Yeah.
enterprise. And the thing that he remembers is that Von Wheeler, after he
Big Von,
finished
yeah.
playing it, said, "That sounds like sh."
Yeah. Big Von's opinion didn't mean much. Just drink your beer, Von, and do what I tell you.
But you right away heard the
Yeah.
potential of the song to be
Right away, I heard it.
Yeah.
And the rest of the group heard it too.
Yeah.
And Lil Anthony didn't know himself what he had just handed us.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what it would do, but I knew that we had the song. And when you sent us to the studio, of course, Dykus Brothers, were they playing? No,
Or was that Ebony?
They weren't. No, Ebony Rhythm.
Was that Ebony
Right.
on that track, Herb? I think. It's
Yeah,
Too Late
I
for
think-
Love.
Yeah, Ebony
Yeah.
Rhythm.
Right, the Ebony Rhythm Band
Yeah.
did a lot of the background music.
Yeah, they did the
Yeah.
background music.
What was your expectation at this time? Were you thinking that the Vanguards were going to be as big as the Temptations, or were you just happy making music with your friends and singing around town? What was your expectation of it all?
Well, the further we went, because see, we ran from around 67 all the way to the 80s, somewhere in the 80s. And the further we went, the longer we kept on doing shows with the great ones out there, because we were doing shows with Isaac Hayes, the Five Stair Steps, with everybody. And the more I realized we was really in the thick of it, see. And so I says, well, I believe we're going to make it, you know. And so that was kind of the way we thought,
Sure.
you know.
Were you playing a lot of shows outside of Indianapolis?
Oh, yeah, we was going as far as, we did shows with Kenny Rogers up in
Really?
Canada.
Wow.
Kenny Rogers was singing with the Fifth Edition
Yeah.
at the time, but he had a TV show in Canada, and we would go up to Detroit to sing, and we was doing a show with Jackie Wilson in Detroit.
Wow. And
And so we slip on over to Canada, and we did the show with Kenny Rogers, and he staged it where the group went up in flames. It went right up in the
Wow.
fire of somehow they
on television.
on
They
television.
had special effects
Yeah.
going. Oh, wow. Do you have any of that video? Do you know if that's still around?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
Oh, my
I
goodness.
remember we raced back over to Detroit to see it on television ourselves.
So as you were out traveling around during that time, people knew the song and you had fans in all these different cities, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everywhere. And I was just surprised, you know, and delightfully so.
Sure. And you inspired so many different young men and women to get into singing and to try to make a profession out of their talents. Were you aware of that at the time, and did you get a sense that you were having a big impact on a lot of young people in the city?
I didn't have a sense of anything like that. I was just kind of enjoying myself. For me, it was really all fun, you know, because I was poor as Job's turkey, but I was just having kind of the time of my life, you know, as kept me out of trouble, that's for sure.
Sure. So you guys weren't seeing a big cut of the money coming in for the records?
No. Most everything we were able to make at that time went right back into going back out on the road.